Okay, so this is just a tutorial video on how to go through and read the sheets that you may get during a break, whether it's summer or winter break. We're just going to go through and touch on some main points of what to look for within each of them. All right, so just to do a quick overview of each of them, this is your lift sheet. This is a weekly layout, daily layout of what to look for each day, exercise options and reminders, which we'll go over, and an abbreviation sheet. All right, so starting with the weekly layout. All right, you're going to see multiple different types of sessions throughout the week. All right, and this is how optimally we'd like to organize those sessions. Okay, so it's called high-low training. You want to alternate your high and low sessions to the best of your ability. So, for example, this is the most optimal one in my opinion. Out of the 5 days, you just keep alternating between the two: high, low, moderate to high, low, high. All right, so now again, or just to preface this, this is a general sheet. Some of this information may be different than what yours specifically says. This is just used for a demonstration, so make sure you look at your specific one that was sent. This is just a demo sheet. So getting into a little bit, your high days will consist of jumps, explosive med ball throws, sprints, strength training, intensive conditioning. Moderate will consist of the similar things, but some things may be a little bit less intensive. And then your low day is just going to be mainly mobility and conditioning. All right, these low days are purposed to help you recover for the next training session. All right, so they're important to still do. I don't like considering it a day off. All right, but it's definitely going to be less intensive than your high and moderate training sessions. All right, a couple things to think about if you don't have the ability to do this specific layout. All right, for whatever reason, that's okay. Um, just try to make sure you're sticking to this high-low training idea. If you have to go 2 high days or a high moderate day in a row and then take your low day on a Wednesday, um, and then your next high day on a Thursday and then low again on Friday, or you could do 2 low in a row and then a high at the end. However you feel that you need to break it up, just stay away from hitting all three of these back to back to back. That's really the main issue. So just keep that in mind and try to accommodate that the best you can. Secondly, you can split up these sessions. Sometimes it's maybe easier, especially if you have a gym that doesn't have access to throw med balls or sprints or anything like that. Split them up into two and make your sessions a little bit shorter. So, for example, if you wanted to do your jumps, med ball throws, and sprints in the morning out on a field, and then hit your lift later on that day. So, those are some things just to think about when going through your weekly layout of how to put your plan together. Now, moving on to the daily layout. All right, just click over onto the next tab. This will consist of what you should be doing each day. Okay, so starting from the top, here is a YouTube link that will take you to a page that has all kinds of demonstration videos, ideas for different um, things you can do. So this is a huge resource. Make sure you visit that. There's all different mobility routines. There's different conditioning options and demonstrations for the lifts as well. So make sure you use this as much as you can. Now, like I said, the weekly layout with the high-low training style, day 1 is going to be your higher day. Day 2 is low. Day 3, moderate. Day 4, low. Day 5, high again. Okay, so um, starting with your warm-up in place, or if you have a field warm-up or the field warm-up that you like to do, either one's fine. Just make sure we're getting a warm-up in before we start. And then it'll be in this order: jumps, med ball throws, and then a resisted sprint. Really, it could be anything. Like I said, these are general, so I'm just saying these as a reference. But make sure you check to see what your sheet is. It doesn't exactly have to be these, but make sure the idea is to go in the order that it's placed. It's in that order for a reason. All right, and then your lift at the end. Across here, you have your 4 weeks, right, and then sets and reps of each movement. So, for example, this week 1, for the jumps, you would do vertical jump with a 5-second pause, 4 sets of 3. Vertical jump, this would be with no pause. All right, 0. So that means you wouldn't do any this week. And then single leg vertical with 5-second stick, one set of 3 each leg. And then you'd move on to the med ball. The following week, week 2, now we're adding in some um, sets and reps for the vertical jump as well, taking some out of here. So just make sure you're conscious of what your set and reps are each week as they progress through the phase. So that's a general layout for the days 1, 3, and 5. All right. Just make sure you take note of what's written on there and go through and read it. Obviously, you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Days 2 and 4 just look a little bit different. All right, the mobility routine, not really looking at, like I said, there's plenty of them on there, so I'm not real worried about which one you're doing. Just make sure you're hitting them, and you're trying to progress each time you do a specific movement. Try to get better and better at those movements that are displayed in those videos. And then your conditioning options, these can be different depending on what part of the summer we're in right now. Early on, all right, we're just doing some general conditioning, interval training with different implements. So make sure you check out that page. It'll have different demonstrations on there, and these could change as well throughout the phase. So just make sure you're noting what's on there. So this is the daily layout sheet. Obviously, if you have any other questions, please reach out. There's some notes and reminders here on rest times and things to look for. So just make sure you go through and read it. I know it can look like a lot, but this is why I wanted to go through and just kind of give you a general idea. All right. Moving forward, all right, the lift sheet. There's 3 days on here: Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Now, obviously, again, this could be different from what your sheet looks like, so make sure you note that. Now, some things that will be consistent are, okay, if you look at the blocks, always be various blocks, 1A, 1B, 1C, right? These are to be done together in supersets, all right? So, for example, this is your squat variation, a rear shoulder exercise, plank with leg raise, okay? These movements or exercises will all be conducive for each other. They won't ever really hinder each other or, cause you to your performance in each of these movements to reduce. All right, they're here as supplemental movements for each other and to get more work done in less time. So while we're resting for our squat movement, we can get some other things done that won't be too taxing on the body. All right, so make sure you follow that kind of layout of the block style training where you're following it block by block and supersetting the exercises that are necessary. Secondly, all right, if you look here, this just says squat variation. So this is to help with people who don't have access to certain equipment. All right, so if you look here, it says choose from options. All right, there's a drop down arrow, and I know that's hard to read, but it gives you options of exercise to do. So if we zoom in, okay, choose from options, barbell front squat, goblet squat. All right, so those are your options that you can use for this squat variation. So you go over to exercise options and reminders, and it has them over here: barbell front squat, goblet squat, and it gives you a little description of what it is. Now, if you look even further than that, it has the rear shoulder, same thing. All right, and they're all over here. Make sure you look at each one, and whichever one you're choosing from, that's the one you're looking at. So it just is an easy way to try to give you guys options on what you can use, especially if you don't have access to certain things. So some things on here do have the choose from options ability. Some of them are just everyone should be able to do it no matter where you're at. That's why there's no option. So make sure you're looking at that. Now, next, okay. This is going to be something that you'll see in the break packages is the rep max. All right, so obviously we're not going to know where you're at, or if you're not going to be able to, we're not going to be able to program you weights. This is an easy way to try to figure out where you're at. So if you look here, this is a 5 rep max. That's what we're looking for this movement. All right, so through the at least these 2 weeks, you're looking for a 5 rep max at this tempo. Okay, so tempo means the rate at which the movement is done. So you go 5 seconds down in the squat, 1 second pause at the bottom, and then explode up. All right, so make sure you look at this and note this. I know we've used some other ways of describing this before, but I felt this was the easiest in to kind of make it so people can understand what I'm trying to say. Um, Make sure you read whatever's noted underneath. It'll tell you kind of how to go through these sets and what to look for. All right. But if you see an AMAP with a number after it, that means you want to go for as many as possible until you feel you can get two more reps. All right. So you go until you feel that you can get two more reps, or you have 2 reps left in the tank. Once you feel that you only have 2 reps left in the tank, then stop. Okay. So these are for this specific protocol. These are your prep sets. These are your your working sets, or your money sets, if that's what you want to call it. Now, for people that don't have certain exercises or certain access to certain things, um, for example, if you don't have a barbell and you only have limited weights, all right, my advice would be you just stick to the tempo and kind of ditch this where you kind of go no matter what the rep scheme or the RM is for that week. Go until you have 2 left in the tank. So if I only have access to a 30-pound dumbbell, I'm going to do goblet squats until I feel like I have 2 reps left. That could be 20, 30, whatever it is. All right, now for somebody that might be super light, easy ways to add weight: backpack loaded up, weighted vest, bands. If you have bands, you can add bands in. Get creative in ways to add resistance if you don't have access to a facility. Um, like I said, just stick to the AMAPs instead of just trying to focus in on dialing on the RM. But if you have access to a facility and barbell, make sure go ahead and do what's necessary. So that's kind of the idea of that. Looking at everything else is kind of self-explanatory. So make sure that you use those choose from options and pick one that you want to do. With that, make sure that if it's in here multiple times, so for example, rear shoulders in here for all 3 days, all right? Choose a different exercise each day, right? Don't try to do, bent over reverse delt fly each day or band pull apart every single day. Choose a different one each time because the progression will come within the sets and reps, and that's with all of these. The progression will be within the sets and reps. If you choose something, I chose incline single arm dumbbell row for this day on this specific movement. Stick with that movement for each for the full phase, right? So I want to do this for each phase so I can progress if possible. If not possible, it's okay if you want to switch it up, but if possible, try to stick with the same movements on those same days. So up top here, just to reiterate, you have your tempo, weight, and reps. You can use this to fill in if you want to fill it in yourself. All right. You can put the weights in there, type them in, or if you want to print it out and write it in there, that's fine too. So make sure you use this as a resource to record what you're doing. The more you can record, the more you can track your progress. All right. Obviously, we don't want them back, but these are for you to be able to record your progress. I think that is it in terms of the lift sheet. This at the bottom here is something you can use for a resource as well. Your RP scale, some people should know what these are. One is, the easiest, it was the easiest workout you've ever done. 10 is the hardest thing you've ever done. You barely made it out. And then this is the amount of hours you slept the night before. So this is a way to track kind of how you're feeling and what your sleep patterns are like, because some people, might not really realize kind of what their patterns are and how it affects their training. So if you want, you can, record that stuff and track that as well. So, and the last thing is the abbreviation sheet. This is just a resource for you to look to see if anything's abbreviated on the sheet. It gives you a description of what it actually is. So this is another way to kind of have an idea of what I'm looking for. I believe that's it. This is the second page to that, because this is 4-week phase, so it has weeks 1 and 2 up top. Page 2 is weeks 3 and 4. So make sure you know which page you're looking at and what week you're on. So I think that wraps this up. Obviously, this can be a lot coming at you, but I felt a video and a screen kind of demonstration of how to look at it was a little bit better than me trying to write down exactly how to do everything. So use the YouTube page as a resource. Make sure your weekly training is on point, and you're trying to get done as much as you can within these lifts, and doing them to the best of your ability. If you have somebody that you're working with, a trainer, anybody like that, that you've worked with before, that you have at home, feel free to use them as a resource. I'm not saying you can't go train with your trainer, and you have to do exactly this, but this is in place for you to be successful when you come back. And just make sure, if you are working with a trainer or somebody like that, just run this by them, and have them take a look at it. And if they have any questions, please reach out.